Good morning, everyone. And welcome to our service of worship this morning. A special welcome to those who are visiting with us. And if you are here for a first, second, third time and would like to claim First United as your church home, welcome to the family. There are just a couple of announcements that I would like to make. First of all, just thank you to those who organized our Strove Tuesday that turned into Ash Wednesday Pancake Day. I think it was a success, and a thank you to those who pulled it all together and those of you who ate. It was wonderful. Thank you so much. Chris, do you have any announcements this morning? I don't think so. Okay. For those who are new to our congregation this morning, a reminder that our masks need to be left on during the service. You are able to sing if you wish, but sing gently, and make sure that your mask covers always your nose and under your chin. Also, as we gather together today as a faith community, we come with heavy hearts. As most of you already know, Reverend Roger died very suddenly on Ash Wednesday. So it's been a week. We hold each other in love and in prayer. Roger's wish was that there be no funeral service, but that we honor him the way we honored Moira, his wife. And that is during a regular Sunday morning worship. And so we're going to do that. We're going to do that next Sunday. The service will be live streamed so that his daughters, who are both in New Brunswick, will also be able to be present. And of course, anyone else in our church family who are unable to come to the church service can also participate. But here's the important piece you need to remember. We've already been getting phone calls from people outside the congregation who want to be here. Now, it's not going to be a regular funeral service, but we will be honoring his life, and the hymns will be ones that are important to Roger, and he will certainly be woven into the service. If you plan to be here, and some of you have already done this, and if you have, thank you, please register as soon as possible. Our limit for numbers is still 100, and this morning we are almost maxed out. We had 96 people registered for church this morning. So if you plan to be here, please register as soon as possible so that we can have some spaces. If we have spaces left, we'll leave them for other members of the community who might like to attend. Let us take a moment. Breathe deeply the breath of life. Know that we are held in divine love. And in this space, we are free. We are free to laugh, to cry, to doubt, to question, to discern, to be who we are, for we are loved. in prayer. We draw close to the water's edge and listen. The song of creation rings out, calling us to a place of cleansing, a place of refreshment, and onto a journey filled with possibility and promise. May our beings be open this day to receive whatever Spirit has to offer. May it be so. Let us hear these words as recorded in the Gospel named for Mark. And in those days, Jesus came from Nazareth of Galilee and was baptized by John in the Jordan. And just as he was coming up out of the water, he saw the heavens torn apart and the Spirit descending on him like a dove. And the heavens declared, "You are beloved." And Spirit immediately led him into the wilderness. He was in the wilderness for 40 days, where he wrestled with his demons and sought guidance and direction for the days ahead.
burning flame of rising sun. The Spirit touched the earth again the wings unfurled, bringing life in wind and fire that she flew on. She comes sailing on the wind, her wings flashing in the sun. On a journey just begun, she flies on, and in the passage of her flight, her song rings out through the night, full of laughter, full of light, she flies on.
Let us unite our hearts in prayer. We have listened to Spirit as it speaks through song. We have listened for Spirit as it speaks through story. May our hearts and beings be open in this moment to receive whatever is offered. And may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable this day. Amen. So on Wednesday of this week, we began a journey as followers of Jesus. It marked the beginning of what we call Lent. And it is marked by Jesus' baptism and what follows his baptism, which is the 40 days in the wilderness. During this time together, we will make a journey together. We will be called upon to listen as Spirit weaves its way in and through us. We will be invited to wrestle with our own struggles and demons and uncertainties. We will be asked to ponder who we are and who we are called to be. And we will be challenged in this journey, for all journeys have a certain amount of challenge in them. Perhaps we are at different stages, even each of us. So while we journey side by side, some of our journeys will look different. And that's okay. For we are there to support one another as we make our way along this road. As we face those challenges, the uncertainties, the doubts and fears, my prayer is that perhaps we will gain a new lens through which to view the world and our place within it. Or perhaps the lens we have might become just a little clearer, that those spots get wiped off, and that we will be empowered as we seek, as we grow, as we learn, as we become, to embody the body of Jesus. Today, we begin our place in the wilderness with water. And we all know that the image of water is not always life-giving. And for those of us who live near the ocean or who grew up near the ocean, we know only too well the perils of the sea. And for those who are fisher folk among us, they know it even more so. And they know that the sea, the ocean, the waters must be treated with reverence and with care. At the same time, we also know that water is something that we cannot live without. It is essential to everyday living. What is it they say? We must drink at least 8 glasses of water every day because it is important for our physical well-being, which in turn has a very direct impact upon our spiritual well-being. So water is central, but not only to our physical, it is central to our spirit. It is a vital element for our journey in this realm. According to the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, nowhere is the relationship between healthy ecosystems and healthy people more apparent than in the global water system. Clean water is the single most important building block of an ecosystem around the world, and it is our most valuable resource. In an article by the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, it goes on to say that contamination of the world's waters, however, leaves 2.5 billion people without access to sanitized water sources. Let that sink in for a minute. 2.5 billion people do not have access to the single most important part of our ecosystem. Because global water conditions are declining, more people will soon have to rely on polluted water sources unless we are joined in a connected effort to clean our water supplies. Now, when we listen to that, I know for most of us, it is hard to imagine that we don't have clean water. We are fortunate here in this community because we can turn on our taps. And while we may cringe at the smell of chlorine from time to time, it is a good source of water. And we sometimes forget that this reality of unclean water or no water at all is actually a very real one, not for people in far-off distant lands, but right here in our own country. It is known that many, if not most, of our reserves do not have access to clean water. We, as people of faith, must be an active voice to change that. We have been made stewards of the earth according to our story, and as such, we must work diligently so that this resource is real and available to every single person. Every person, every animal, every tree, every flower. And there are ways that we can do that. It may not feel like we're doing much, but it does have an impact. Simple things, like watching your own water use. Don't let your tap run unencumbered for minutes when it doesn't need to be. Something as simple as brushing your teeth and turning the waters off in between while you're scrubbing instead of letting it run has an impact on the world's water source. Participating in our own area in cleanups, particularly in terms of the things that end up in our waterways, in our streams, in our rivers. And there are people who spearhead those things. Join in, clean it up. Watch out for your plastics and the things that inevitably end up in the water, which not only pollutes the water, but destroys the ecosystems in it. And we can clearly make decisions about how much we use plastics. And there's been things put in place in our country lately, in our province anyway, where we're limiting some of that, but there's still so much more. And there's things that we can do ourselves to make sure that they don't end up in our water systems. But as people of faith, water also holds another meaning. It is an essential part of our journey throughout all of life. We look at our story and the waters of creation. It is through those waters of creation that we say all life came to be. We talk about the fact that it was through the water that we were led from slavery into freedom. We know that it was water that enabled our people as we struggled through the desert. Water that came in unexpected places and gave them life when they felt like there was no life. Water is a symbol of our baptism as we enter into the fellowship of Jesus, a sign and symbol of growth and life and commitment. And Jesus, over and over again, invites us to places of deep refreshment. He invites us to the well, where we drink of the water and we never again are spiritually thirsty. And so we begin our Lenten journey. I invite you to come to the water's edge. Allow the water to flow over your being, to touch your soul at its innermost depth, and may your being be filled.
Like a healing stream in a barren desert.
And on this day, as we begin our journey, we are invited to come to the table, a place where our spirits can be fed, where we can drink from the well of eternal life, where we can hear those words of comfort, encouragement, and love. Here the table is prepared for us, and Jesus is our host. May our souls be nourished and our spirits fed. And remember that this table, it is not yours, it is not mine. It is the table of Jesus. And so everyone, regardless of race, creed, color, size, shape, age, lots of hair, no hair, no matter what, you are welcome. We gather in this place and we tell a story. It is a story that is filled with possibility, with challenge, with hope, with promise. In the beginning, through the birthing waters of creation, life came to be. And we were gifted with all we needed for life to flourish. We listened, we learned, we changed, and along the way, we made mistakes. Mistakes that have caused harm and uncertainty. But always, in the midst of that, came voices and visions calling us back into right relationship with one another and with creation. Voices like Moses and Miriam and Aaron, like Esther and Deborah, like Isaiah and Jeremiah, like Micah, and others, countless others, not just from long ago, but in this present day, whose names perhaps we don't even know, but whose work for what is right has made a difference in the world. And at this table, we recall the journey of Jesus of Nazareth, in whose footsteps we follow. He came into a broken and a hurting world, and he offered healing and hope. He offered reconciliation and peace. He offered a new way of life. And he broke down barriers of race, of religion, of culture, of gender. And he invited all of us to build a world where love is lived. But those in power could not hear his words. And they were afraid. And so they killed him. But what they didn't know was that not even death, not death in any way, could end the vision of Jesus, could end the life of Jesus, which continues in you and in me. On the night before he was given over to be crucified, Jesus sat for a very special meal with his friends. There, they shared a familiar story, a story that spoke of moving from oppression into freedom. And at the end of the meal, Jesus gave to them new words, a continuing story. He took some ordinary bread, and he broke it in their presence. And he said, "This is my body." Whenever you gather together and you eat of the bread, remember me and make me real in your lives as you embody me. He also took a cup of wine, the result of the first fruits of creation. He said, "This is a sign and a symbol of a new covenant, a covenant of love, of hope, of reconciliation, of peace. Whenever you drink it, remember me and make me real in your lives." And so it is, from that very night to this very morning. Those of us who follow in the footsteps of Jesus, when we gather around the table, we have bread and wine, or the fruits of the vine, and we tell a story, and we remember, and we open ourselves up to receive the power and the vision of Jesus as it becomes real in us. The gifts of God for the family of God. All is now ready. And as with all things in COVID times, our table looks a little different, but it is the table of Jesus nonetheless. You each have in your pew a package with a cracker and a grape. I would invite you now to take the cracker as the bread of life. Eat and never be hungry. This morning, we partake of the fruit of the vine before it becomes the wine. It nonetheless quenches our thirst and reminds us of the covenant that we have made. Let us eat, and let us never be thirsty. Here at this table, we have been nourished. May it enable us to move from this space out into the world, where we are the hands and feet and voice of Jesus, and where we are co-creators of a world where love is lived. And now may Jesus, who walks on wounded feet, walk with us to the end of our roads. May Jesus, who helps with wounded hands, enable us to help each other. May Jesus, who loves with a wounded heart, enable us to love each other. And as we move forward, may we see the face of Jesus in everyone we meet. And may everyone we meet see the face of Jesus in us. reminder for those new folks among us that we actually exit via this door as we leave.